Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, my name is Emmanuel, and today we're going to be going one step further from our last video where we learned about the UI compositional layout. All right, and today what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to use the compositional layout with multiple sections. All right, so this is like in the last video we just used one section with different alignments, or basically building like staggered UI. If you haven't watched that, you can just go ahead and check the video over there. And yeah, so today we're going to just be learning how to use multiple sections with compositional layout. All right, so let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually have a starter project just to make sure that I don't keep you guys bored with what you already know. So if you want to follow along with the current implementation I have, you can just go ahead and download the starter project. I have the link in the description. But otherwise, if you just want to learn, then by all means, just go ahead. So I'm just going to give a very quick breakdown of what we currently have. So if we head over to the main.storyboard, you would notice that I have just one view, right? View controller. And here we have a collection view. And in the collection view, I have multiple kinds of cell. So this first one is basically our header or section header. So basically we're just going to have our header text placed over here. And then we also have three types of collection view cells. One for story, which is this one that basically has a profile picture with a rounded profile picture. Then this one I called portrait collection view cell, basically one big image, and the title of the anime, because we're going to be using animes. And then here we have like the landscape where we have image and text. All right. So yeah, this is very simple design, and you can go ahead and check the cells just to see how these cells are set up. So we have here image view, and then we set the image view, and we're just trying to lay out the sub view and set the corner radius so that it is basically it shows the moment the view is loaded. And then we have the portrait, the same kind of setup. We have landscape, and then this reusable cell that we're using for our header. All right, so we're basically just setting the title. So that's it for the cells. And if you go over here, we have two types of two structures. First one is the list item, which is the kind of basically the data that we're going to be displaying. So you know, from the design we have image or title. So that's what this is about. And then we also have sections. So in order for us to, I just wanted to create a way that we can make sections, and sections are made up of items. So that's basically what we have here, and we have different types of sections for our display. So we have the story section that basically takes in an array of items, popular, which is the portrait, and then coming soon is the landscape. All right, so these are just the various sections that we have. And then I just created some attributes that allows us to be able to fetch the items from the sections. And this is a count to basically know how many items are in the section, and the title is what the title for the section, right? Then finally we have our mock data, and this is basically what we see on the screen. And this is just some random pictures of anime. And actually, let me just go ahead and run this just so you see exactly what is happening here. So and this isn't just going to be, it doesn't make sense because we don't have any layouts happening here, and that's what this video is going to be about. So we're going to use the UI compositional layout to basically structure this display to display stuff properly. But anyhow, this is just what we have. And but basically there are different sections. If you look over here, you would see that so you see here popular is another section. We have let me see, coming soon, just like that. So yeah, just different sections over there. So that's what this mock data is about. And if we head over to our view controller, you're going to see that we basically have a variable or constant named sections, and we basically just get the data from our mock data, right? And we have like our normal collection view process where we specify the data source, and then we have like the section, the number of sections, because we have multiple sections. Then we have the number of items in sections, where we just get the section and the section dot count. And then because we have multiple section types, we basically just switch our section And then if it is stories, we just display using the stories cell. If it's popular, we use the portrait. If it's coming soon, we use landscape. All right. And then here we set up our header. So we use this view to display our header. All right. So that's basically it. Now to today's video, what we want to do is want to basically structure or lay out our collection view using the compositional layout. So the first thing I'm going to do is right here, we're going to create a private func, and we're going to call this create layout. And this is going to return UI collection view compositional layout. And before we get into filling that out, we're going to say collection view dot collection view layout like this, and this is going to be equal to create layout. All right, so very straightforward. We're basically setting the layout of our collection view to be whatever we create over here. Great. Now what we want to do is we want to display different configurations or different layouts for different sections, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to return of course a value of UI collection view compositional layout. So we're going to say UI collection view compositional layout. But in the last video, we basically just used sections. So this was us using a particular layout for the sections. We're going to use the section and actually the section provider. And if you click on this, you're going to see that we have two values here. The first one is the section, and the second one is the layout environment. And we don't need to bother about this for now, so I'm just going to focus on the section because that's what we want to do. We want to return different layouts for different sections, all right? So next thing we're going to do here is we're going to, first of all, we need to get our section. So we need to know what section we currently are on, okay? So we're going to say section is going to be equal to, and actually we can just go ahead and call this or section index or something so that the value is different. So section is going to be sections. So remember we have sections right here, which is the various sections that are on display. So sections, and then we're going to get the section index, all right? And if you look over here, you're going to see that this is going to return value of type list section. And you know list section is basically, and actually this is called an enclosure, so we're gonna need to add self. And in order to be safe, you can go ahead and say weak self like this, and guard let self equals self, else return. Oops. Good. So again, this is going to return a value of type section, which is what we have, and we can go ahead and switch section. And when we switch section, you're going to notice that we have three possibilities. We have the stories, portrait, and coming soon. All right. So we don't need the values, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove those. So, but what we really need is just to know what type of section this is, and then we can basically just structure our whatever. Okay. Now, this requires us to return a section, okay? So what we're gonna do is here, we're just gonna return nil because we can't return optional value. So for the remaining, so for popular and for coming soon, we're going to implement these later. So for now, I'm just going to return nil for both of these guys, return nil like this. And we're going to get started with the layout of the story. So we want to lay out the view section by section so that we don't confuse you guys. So we're going to get started with stories, and if you remember from our last video, there are three main things that we need whenever we're trying to build like a layout. The first thing we need is the item, then we need the, let's make this, oops, all right, so we need the item, then we need the group, and finally, we need the section. All right. Now for the item, we basically want like a profile image, so rounded profile image. So here I'm going to say let item be equal to NS collection layout item, and we need to specify the layout size. And we can just say dot init, and for the width, I basically just want it to fill, all right? So just fill your container. So I can go ahead and say dot fractional width of 1. And for the height, I can just say dot fractional height of 1, all right? And this is what we have for the item. So basically this is just gonna just fill its container, all right? Now for the group, what we're gonna do is we're gonna say let's group be equal to NS collection layout group, and we're gonna say dot horizontal, okay? And the size for the group is basically, we can say we want this to maybe be, we can give it a, what am I doing here? Yep, init. And for the width, I can say maybe a constant value. I can just say a constant value of, nope, not constant, absolute. So an absolute value of like 70, all right? And the same thing for height. I can just say the absolute. And these are just like, I'm just trying to build something, right? You can't choose to use whatever. You can decide that you want your the stories square or circle to grow or be bigger or smaller depending on the screen size or whatever, right? But I'm just trying to keep things very simple and straightforward. So we're just saying, hey, these items or each profile circle should just have a width of 70 and a height of 70, right? Just keeping things simple. Now for the sub items, I'm just going to say item, just like that, because I want to use this item to lay out all these sub items. All right, so now that we have that done, the next thing that we're going to need to do is to like create a section. So I'm just going to say let return NS collection layout section. And this, of course, takes a group. And actually, let's just go ahead and create this into a variable because we're going to need to style it later on. So I'm going to say let section be equal to this. Then finally, you can just return section. All right. See, am I missing anything? Okay, cool. So we have this set up, and just to, before we actually go through it again, let's go ahead and run this and see what this looks like. Oh, we have a crash. Start valid section definition. Okay. So basically what is happening here is that we are returning nil. So we're basically saying no layout, but there's data for it. So the other sections have data, but we're saying nil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the sections, and I'm going to temporarily just remove the other two. So currently we're just going to have one section. And we can run that again, and so now you can see that we have the various what's it called, the various profile images here. Now what we want to do is I want these guys to scroll horizontally. All right, I want them to basically just be at the top, just like the Instagram stories. So there's something that we can do that is really beautiful about the CollectionView compositional layout, and that's the fact that we can simply just say section dot orthogonal scrolling behavior. I hope I got that pronunciation, but anyhow, we just go ahead and set this to true. Oh, what did I just say? True. So we have to set the scrolling behavior, and actually I want this to be continuous. So I want this to continuously scroll. And if you look at this, we actually have different other possibilities. So you can see group paging centered, and we're going to use this later on, but they're just different. There's paging, continuous group leading boundary, and you can basically just choose what kind of scroll effect that you want to have. I know this is a good use case for this is maybe when you're doing that kind of onboarding screen where in our case we had to calculate like the next screen and all those things, but with this one it just does it automatically. So where we at? So yeah, continuous, and then we go ahead and run this again, and we should see that this is now aligned horizontally with scroll just like that. Perfect. Oh, I love it. Nice. Now the next thing we're going to do here is I want us to add spacing for each of the groups. So remember here we have a group and the item. So we want to add spacing after each item. So what we're going to do is we're going to say section dot spacing, intergroup spacing, and this is going to be equal to, we can set 10 or more. Let's see what this looks like. Ah, okay, not bad. Not bad at all. All right, so we've added that, and we also want to add spacing to this guy, like the left and right, so that they don't stop at the exact edge. So what we can do is just say section dot inset, content inset, and we're just going to set this top, we can leave as 0, lead in, we can say 10, bottom, we can leave as 0, or actually bottom, we will need some, I think. And we get to that in a bit. Then trailing, we can say 10. All right. So we run this one more time, and let's see what this looks like. All right. So we have the initial spacing over here, and like that. Great. Now, there's one thing that's missing here, and that is our section header. So remember, we added like headers for our sections, but it's not showing here. So how do we add that? It's pretty simple. What we need to do first of all actually is we need to create like a sizing, because we're going to be using this section header in different, or this section header design in multiple sections. So rather than having to create our size in here, we're going to go ahead and just create a private function, or you can create a computer property, whatever. But we're just going to call this, what should I call this? You can say supplementary header item or something like that. And basically what this returns is supplementary boundary item. All right. And now what we basically need to do is just return an initialization of a size and, pardon me, we need to return a size and element kind. So we want this option here that allows us to specify the size for what element type and what do we want the alignment to be. All right, so these are the three arguments that we need here. And actually I've been using init for a while here. You don't always have to use init. You can decide to just do this. So most times I just use init whenever I either don't want to type the full like name, or I maybe can't remember and I don't want to check. So you can just do whatever you feel more comfortable with. And there's no return function, there's no return keyword here, because it's basically just one line and it's going to return that one line automatically. All right, so those are some extra tips. Now for the size, you can just think of it. Okay, so what do we want for the size? Definitely we want the width to be full. So I'm just gonna say dot fractional width of 1. And for the height dimension, we can go ahead and say dot absolute of, we can say like 100. Let's see. And I think this is actually lower than 100. If we were to go and check the main.storyboard, and here, this is, let's see. Yeah, this is 100 is way off. So, but what we can do, if we wanted to just like get the full size, we can decide to use estimated, and we can say maybe estimated of like 50. All right. So yeah, that's for the height. And the next thing we want is what kind of element do we, what kind of supplementary header is this, or element? So this is UICollectionView dot element kind section header, just like that. So, and you notice that this type is exactly the same as this one right here. All right. So we're basically saying this, for this type, use this view. All right. And here we're saying that this supplementary header is of this type. Now for the alignment, we can just go ahead and just say top or whatever you want to specify over there. Now that we have that done, we are going to need to add this supplementary header item to our section. All right. And to do that, we're just going to say section dot boundary supplementary items. And this, if you hold down option and click on this, you'd notice this is going to come up. It doesn't come up. But you notice that this is an array of supplementary item or boundary supplementary item. So yeah, so we're just going to need to say this is going to be equal to an array of the header. And just like you probably have guessed, if you had like a footer design for this, for your collection view, you would also add the footer right here like that. So you say something like supplementary footer item or something like that, all right? So yeah, it's complaining about this. So remember, you have to add yourself, and that's it. So I think we can go ahead and run this, and let's see what we currently have. Sweet. So now you can see the section header, right? And there's something that is worth noting here is the fact that you notice that we have like some extra spacing here, right? And if you look at the design of the view of the header, we have just, what's it, maybe like 10, I think. Oh, 8. So we have just 8 pixels difference or something like that, right? So, but here in the app, we have much larger space. And what is happening is by default, the view or the supplementary item that we have follows the content inset. And here we specify the inset to have a leading of 10. So that's going to be an extra 10 added to the left of the, you can just think of it as the view is going to be added within the frame of the inset. Okay. So if you want to remove that, you can just type in follow content inset supplementary is follow, and then we can specify this as false. Now if we go ahead and run this again, then we should have the, what's it called? The header more to the left. All right, just like that. So now the header starts from the edge like that, regardless of what the content inset of the section is. Okay, cool. And that's actually it for this one. So we can actually move on to the next section. And to do that, first of all, remember that you gotta add that here. So just say popular. And in our view controller, in our popular section, we now need to create a design just the same way we did all of these. We need to do the same thing for the next section. So I'm just gonna go ahead and copy this so that I don't spend much time doing it again. But we're just gonna modify some of the values. So for example, now we want a portrait. So we want a bigger rectangle in the middle. So for the item, we can just leave this like this. So just fill whatever, just fill the width and the height. And for the group, we're not going to be doing like 70. So we don't want each item in a group to have like 70 by 70, right? We want it to basically be, so we can say like fractional width of, so we can just try different values. So let me say maybe 0.6 of the width. And for the height, again, we don't want absolute value, so we can go ahead and say, we can add an absolute value for the height and maybe say something like 200, if you will. But if you wanted to maybe be flexible, depending on the orientation, you can then go ahead and use like fractional width or fractional height. So I'm just going to use fractional height, all right? And I'm going to specify this to be maybe, we can try maybe 0.6 again and just see what this looks like. All right, so for the sub items, just go ahead and use item like that. And the section remains, this section, we obviously want it to scroll horizontally. And the spacing we can leave like that. Actually, we can just go ahead and run this and let's see what this currently looks like. Just like that. So you can see how like really easy it was for us to do this. And these are 2 layout stylings or 2 layout possibilities for different sections. Now, if you followed the Yummy series, you would notice that we did things completely different. So we added a scroll view, we added multiple, I think a stack view, and then we added multiple collection views to basically achieve this. But this is just a single collection view, and we have multiple sections, and then we're displaying in multiple ways. Isn't that beautiful? So that's that. I think this actually works for the sizing. I didn't expect it to be this good. And you can see what the fractional height we use does. So when you rotate to landscape, then it basically just shrinks to remain 60% of the screen. So you can expand and it goes full screen. Now, but one thing that I want us to do differently here is I don't want the scrolling to be basically continuous, just like this one. So I wanted to like scroll in a paginated way. So we can come over here and just change this to paging. And if we go ahead and run this again, we will see that we can now scroll in a paginated way. And we scroll. All right, so this is paginated, but it's not looking good at all. So the thing is, if you come over here, you notice that we have another kind of paging where it says group paging centered. All right. So what this does is, I'm just going to show you, and it looks good, is it's basically going to center the view. And then when you scroll to the next item, it becomes centered, just like that. So it's going to be centering each item like that. And this is much better. But I think maybe we can go ahead and increase the fractional width so that the selected one is bigger, so it doesn't look so bad in the first one. So I can go ahead and say, where are you, fractional width? And let's make this maybe 90. So 90% of the screen is going to be the width of a particular cell. All right, okay, maybe 90 is too much, maybe. Well, you can just play around with your values and choose whatever makes sense for you. And you can actually even add animations. So as you're scrolling to different ones, maybe the first one is going to be bigger than the other ones that are there, but that's a topic for another day. But that's basically it. So this is for the second one. You can see a different scrolling behavior than this one that is continuous. So we can, of course, go ahead and implement the last one where we basically just copy this because we're lazy and we don't want to spend much time here. And for this one, we can actually just go ahead and let me actually just copy this one. I think this is going to be more similar. And we're going to paste this over here. So for this one, I can give like a fractional, an absolute height. I'm just going to give absolute heights for this one. And here I'm just going to say, so the width, maybe, trying to guess what this might be. We can try like 150. And the height, or let's try 200. I don't know. Let's try 160. And for the height, we'll maybe try 100. And everything else remains. So let's go ahead and run this. And whenever you see yourself repeating code like this, then you can actually do things cleaner. So we have to add the data here. So just say coming soon, run it again. So if you look over here, you notice that many things are similar in the section. So you can basically just clean it up and move all repeated stuff to maybe a function, or maybe make your section global. I think that was probably possible. Okay, no, yeah, then you have to add it. Anyhow, just find ways that you can avoid having the same code repeated many times. All right. So let's look at let's see what this looks like now. And okay, so not the best, but I guess it works. Just trying to explain. So the width can go even more. So I can say maybe 160, 170, and make this 80. And all right, well, not the best, but anyhow, this is just like, so we have this, and you can actually decide to put like different scrolling behaviors, if you will. And there's actually another thing we can do, which is to use like a list format. But maybe if you guys are interested, you let me know and we can have that in a different video. But again, we can actually just clean this up just a little bit, add like bottom spacing for this guys. So I'm gonna come over here and maybe make this like 30, I think 30. The last one doesn't need, so let's run this again. And this should be more separated. All right, looking better. Okay, and if you go ahead and rotate this, you would also notice that even though this now is so wide, but anyhow, you can see we have the stories, we have this one, everything still like responsive. So this is it, guys. The video showing you how you can use one collection view to have multiple kind of layouts. So if you have questions, definitely go ahead and ask in the comment section. I'll try as much as possible to respond as soon as possible. And if you found any kind of value in this video, you can just go ahead and smash the like button. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, turn on your notification. And in our next video, we'll probably cover a diffable data source. That's what I'm thinking. So, if you're interested in that, then I look forward to seeing you guys then.